Joe Biden won the election decisively, with more votes than have ever been cast in American history. It amounts to 75 million voices and counting, calling on the Supreme Court to see this case for what it is, a blatant attempt to overturn the will of the people. And the President-elect and I cannot let that happen. I've heard arguments in a case that could strike down the Affordable Care Act in its entirety. And we all know that if the Affordable Care Act is struck down, communities of color would be hit particularly hard: Black, Asian, Hispanic, and Native American, because they are at a greater risk of pre-existing conditions, from asthma to diabetes to lupus. And they are also 3 times as likely to contract COVID-19 and twice as likely to die as others. President-elect Joe Biden.
Thank you, Kamala. Good afternoon, everyone. This case represents the latest attempt by the far-right ideologues to do what they've been repeatedly failed to do for a long time. In the courts, in the Congress, in the court of public opinion, over the last decade, to eliminate the entirety of the Affordable Care Act. Twice already, the Supreme Court has upheld the landmark law, in 2012 and again in 2015. And the Congress, expressing the popular will of the American people on a bipartisan basis, has rejected numerous attempts, numerous efforts by President Trump to erase the law as well. Now, in the middle of a deadly pandemic that has infected more than 10 million Americans, nearly 1 in every 32 Americans, often with devastating consequences to their health, these ideologues are once again trying to strip health coverage away from the American people. The goal of the outgoing administration is clear from the brief they filed in the Supreme Court. It asserts, and I quote, "The entire ACA thus must fall," end of quote. Now, I'm not naive about the fact that health care is an issue that has divided Americans in the past. Already, the Supreme Court has upheld the landmark law. This doesn't need to be a partisan issue. It's a human issue. It affects every single American family. And we can't subvert the growing consensus of the American people based on an argument put forward in the briefs seeking to invalidate the law that even many conservative legal scholars, including in the National Review, consider to be, quote, ridiculous. Let's be absolutely clear about what's at stake. The consequences of the Trump administration's argument are not academic or an abstraction. For many Americans, they are a matter of life and death in a literal sense. This argument will determine whether health care coverage of more than 20 million Americans who acquired under the Affordable Care Act will be ripped away in the middle of the nation's worst pandemic in a century. Over 100 million people, as the Vice President-elect pointed out, over 100 million people with pre-existing conditions like asthma, diabetes, cancer, could once again be denied coverage, whether complications from COVID-19 like lung scarring and heart damage will be the next flood of pre-existing conditions that can be used as an excuse to jack up premiums or deny coverage altogether. For millions of survivors who have struggled, won, and fought the coronavirus, fought against the loss of their life. Now, I'm not naive about the fact that health care is an issue that has divided Americans in the past.